They say everything old becomes new again, and I think it's really cool that sewing is becoming the new, like, back in fashion thing. So people are getting excited about it, and you're seeing a lot of blogs and a lot of videos on garment making and crafting and just some other things. Well, coming along in with sewing is mending. So today I'm going to show you my mending box and a few different other ideas, excuse my cat in the back there, for putting together your own hand sewing and mending box. Now, what you choose as your mending box can really be anything. It can be a small little wicker or something special kind of box that you buy for that purpose. It can be just a small tin that you can put things in. It doesn't have to be all that big. It can be some sort of fun larger tin such as this. This is hinged. You have plenty of space in there to get all of your supplies in, or something even a little bit larger such as that. So you kind of pick what you'd like to use. You do often see in the thrift stores they have those round shortbread butter cookie tins that are really popular for mending boxes. What I use is this little box here. I like it just because I liked it. It's got buttons on the front, wicker side, but it doesn't have to be all that fancy. So let's get into it and see what I have inside my mending and hand sewing box. So when you open it up, first of all, this is what you see. I've kind of organized it as to what fits my needs, and you'll do the same thing. Up here I have hanging some safety pins in a couple different sizes. You never know when you'll need those. Here I have just an emery strawberry for sharpening needles. It actually belonged on the tomato, but my baby kitty bit it off. I have a needle threader, and actually this is another needle threader. And I just have some pins in the top here just so that it can sit up there so that those small things are sort of handy and out of the way. Inside, you'll notice you don't really need a whole lot of things for a mending and a hand sewing box. I have some good thread in a couple of different colors, and for me I like to have a little bit of off-white, black. This is more of a whiter white, and then I like to have a gray. For me, those are colors I find pretty much fit any sort of mending situation I need. And if I'm going to hand sew something, putting on buttons or whatnot, then I would obviously have some thread that matched the buttons in the fabric. But just for mending purposes, those are my four. I do have a nice little vintage thimble in here, which fits comfortably on my finger. It doesn't fall off, and yet it doesn't squeeze. It's not too tight, so that when I'm sewing, I can push the needle through very comfortably. Sort of an odd thing to get comfortable with when you first start. It feels pretty awkward, but once you get comfortable with it, thimble's nice to have. Here I have a vintage pin cushion. It's the sawdust-filled tomato. A small pair of sharp scissors. Come on out of there, you. I'll get that in a minute. Here I have my fine pins, and I like the fine ones just because it sort of fits most of my garments. If I'm doing something, mending something like jeans or whatever, I'll pull out something more heavy duty, but these are just my standard pins, and these are glass head. I like glass head pins in case I need to press something. I can, if I need to leave the pin in, I could just press right over them and it's not going to melt the pin heads. So there's some pins. A seam gauge for hemming or adjusting a mend to a certain length or width. This is just a little tin that I have. It's got a little magnet up here. I have a loose needle there. Actually, that's a sewing machine needle. And then in here I just have my beeswax. And this is sort of handy because if you're sewing something and your thread might be getting tangled, like sewing a button or sewing something, you can actually pull your thread right through these slots here. You see those slots? Just pull the threaded thread through there, and then the wax sort of coats it a little bit and keeps it from tangling and twisting when you're trying to sew something. So that's really handy to have. And then I have another little needle threader here, and then here are just a bunch of needles. And I find generally an all-purpose sharps needle works well for me. I have a couple of different kinds in here. Some are vintage, but they're still usable and in good condition. I have some darning needles in the back, which I've actually never used, but they're there in case I ever need them. That one time, you never know. So I keep that in there. Here I have another thimble. It's like a plastic one. That's just a cheap one. A measuring tape, which is always handy to have. The old seam ripper. Hate to have to use him, but sometimes you do. A bodkin. This is great for pulling elastic through a cuff. I mean, like a, yeah, I guess a shirt cuff or a waistband or something. Here I have another seam gauge, a measuring gauge. What else do I have in here? Oh, just this last thing. And this is just a little magnet. So in case I need to just put some pins down or something I want to hang on to. I don't know. Just keep that in there. But that's generally what I have in my mending and my sewing box. Something else you might have if you need might be like a few snaps or some buttons. But I tend to find that sort of stuff is really project specific. So I don't really keep it in my mending box. If I need buttons, I'll go to my notions area and find buttons that match. But yeah, so it's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be anything crazy and dramatic, just a few supplies. And that's pretty much how you would put together just a very simple, very easy mending box here. So good luck on setting up your own.